Hi y'all, my name is Addie. Welcome to another video of Unit 1 Whole Body Overview. In this video, we're going to go over Activity 2, and I'm going to cover the integumentary and the whole skeletal system, so the axial and appendicular skeletal bones. Um, I am making another video that I'm going to post on all of the other organ systems, such as like your endocrine, your digestive, reproductive systems for both male and female. So please go ahead and check out those videos as well for your studying. And then before I begin, please like and subscribe for more content in the future so that I can keep making videos. Thank you so much, and let's start to get into the lesson. So we're going to start off with the integumentary system. That is basically composed up of your skin, hair, nails, all of those factors. For this activity, you're going to just need to know kind of like the three different skin layers. So this kind of like thick, light pinkish layer up here at the top, and then bleeding into this purple layer. So over here where this bracket is, this would be considered to be your epidermis. So epidermis, and this is like the most superficial layer. Um, it is where your hair is going to come out of and all of those little factors. Below it, you are going to have this thicker pink layer. This is your dermis, and this is where all of your different glands are going to be. So, for instance, your eccrine glands, your apocrine glands, and then like your hair follicles. So this white gland over here, that is an eccrine gland. These are sweat glands, by the way. This big one over here in the middle, that is an apocrine sweat glands. These little purple grape bunches are sebaceous glands. And then you have this muscle that is connected to the hair follicle. That is a erector pili muscle. And a really fun fact is that if you're ever cold, this muscle is going to contract and it's going to make the hair stand up straight on your body. So kind of like goosebumps. And if you guys have heard of those things, that is because of the contraction of all of these little muscles that is connected to every single one of your hairs, which is pretty cool in my opinion. So next, the very last layer of the skin is your hypodermis. And this is kind of like where you see all of the little yellow dots. So over here, all of these like little bundles of yellow dots. This is your adipose tissue. So your hypodermis is extremely fatty, and it has a lot of fat content in it, kind of like moisturizing everything almost in a sense. So epidermis most superficial, middle is your dermis, and then very deep is your hypodermis. Now we're going to move on to the skeletal system. So we're starting off on your axial skeleton, which is composed up of your skull and vertebral column. So we're going to start off with the skull over here. The skull has different bones that break it up. So you have like 4 different skull bones. The first of which is going to be over here, the forehead region. This is your frontal bone. Frontal bone over here, and that is where your frontal portion of your brain would be. Then we have your parietal bone, which is going to be this middle portion over here, and it's going to wrap around to the top of the head, and then it's going to come down the sides until you kind of see this like fissure or this crack over here. So that is your parietal bone. And then towards the back of the head is your occipital bone. And if you guys have ever heard of like um, that the back of the brain is where the vision is processed. That is correct because it goes like through the eyes over here and then it goes all the way to the back of your head where the occipital lobe is and it helps to process that visual information, which is pretty cool. And now the very last little lobe is over here on the side, kind of where your ears are located. And this is your temporal bone. And because it is where your ears are, it is going to be able to process auditory information. So all of your hearing, different sounds, stuff like that, that is where that's processed. It's also pretty cool, this kind of like black hole over here that you see, that is your external auditory canal. And the sound comes in and then it's at this brain region that helps process your hearing. So that was everything for like the top of the skull area. Now we're gonna move down to the bottom. So for the bottom, you mostly just need to know this general region over here, composed up of two bones. So you have your mandible over here. The mandible is going to be basically just your jawbone. So mandible. And then on the top, you have your maxilla. Your maxilla lies above your teeth but under your nose. And I like to think of it as your mustache bone because if you have a mustache, then that is the region that it would grow. So your maxilla above your teeth, under your nose. That is everything for the skull that you need to know. And now we're going to move on to your vertebral column. So this picture is really nice because it's kind of already labeled for you a little bit, but I'm just going to teach you guys a little bit about how many vertebrae are in each section. So you have your cervical vertebrae over here. Your cervical vertebrae is the first 7 vertebrae. And it's kind of like your neck region over here, going down all the way to the beginning of the ribs. Then you have your thoracic vertebrae. This is your upper back, and the thoracic region is composed up of 12 vertebrae. So 12 vertebrae, this upper back region. And then finally, you have your lumbar vertebrae. They put the spelling over here on the other side. Lumbar vertebrae is your lower back. I kind of covered this in the last video, and it is where they give your lumbar punctures, but 5 vertebrae. Then you have fused vertebrae, which comes in your sacrum and your coccyx. So your sacrum is going to be this big plate over here of vertebrae that has these like tiny little holes in it that you can kind of see over here. So your sacrum is composed up of 5 fused vertebrae. Oops, missing a V. Okay, there we go. 5 fused vertebrae. And then your little tailbone at the very bottom is your coccyx or your coccygeal, whichever one you guys want to say. I personally like coccyx better just because it is easier to spell and it's shorter. But 4 fused vertebrae. And there is a mnemonic to help you guys remember all of the different numbers that go into every section. So the mnemonic is breakfast at 7, lunch at 12, and then dinner at 5:54. So it's basically over here. It's basically like breakfast at 7 is referring to your cervical vertebrae. You have 7 cervical vertebrae. Lunch at 12 is referring to the number of vertebrae in your thoracic region, 12 vertebrae. And then dinner at 5:54 is talking about your lumbar, your sacrum, and your coccyx. 5:54. Um, Again, 5:54, like that. So that is how that mnemonic works, and it's really, really helpful for tests and stuff like that. If you ever forget the number, then this can be a really good lifesaver. Next, we're going to move on to the thorax region of your skeleton. The thorax region is going to be your chest area. So this whole area over here. And it is basically just referring to your sternum, which is this yellow flat bone over here, sternum. And then you have 12 ribs, or 12 pairs of ribs, I should say. So 12 pairs of ribs, which equates to 24 singular ribs. So they could ask kind of like some questions on those things. It is good to know, especially your instructors might ask you, the difference between true, false, and floating ribs. So, ribs or pairs of ribs, 1 to 7, those are going to be your true ribs because they're like more close directly touching your sternum. And then from there, 8 to 10, those are going to be your false ribs. They're not directly touching your sternum. They kind of need a little bit more cartilage in order to reach the sternum. And then finally, 11 to 12, these are going to be your false ribs. So you can see at the very bottom, they're not even close to the sternum. They need a lot of cartilage to be able to connect to the sternum. And so, in that sense, they're just like not there. Oh, sorry. I wrote false, but I meant floating. Floating ribs. These are floating. They're kind of just like suspended in space, not really able to touch everything. So again, 1 through 7, true ribs, 8 to 10, false ribs, and then 11 to 12 is floating ribs. All right, now that we have talked about all of the axial skeletons, we're going to move into the appendicular skeleton. So feel free to pause the video right now, take a break, and then come back when you are ready to look at all of the appendicular bones. So we are starting off with the pectoral girdle. The pectoral girdle is really nice because you only need to know 2 things for it at this time. You have the wings of your hips, which are these bones over here on the side, and these are considered to be your coxal bones. So again, coxal bones. And they are joined together in the middle by this little tiny piece of cartilage, which you can see is this like little white rectangular figure. This is going to be your symphysis pubis. So, symphysis pubis. And this is basically just like a piece of cartilage that is going to bring everything together. Some instructors really like asking questions on this structure, so make sure that you pay attention to whether your instructor is emphasizing this structure a lot and make sure that you know it for when your tests and exams come up. Next, we're moving into the lower limbs. So, in the lower limbs, you are going to have your femur over here. This is your femur, also known as your thigh bone. So, that is where your thighs would sit. Next, we have the patella, which is in between the two kind of like upper and lower leg region. So your patella, also known as your knee bone. So patella. And then we have your tibia and fibula. So your tibia is going to be the bone that is a little bit more medial and it's thicker. It's this one right over here in the center. This is your tibia. And then lying to the side of it is going to be your fibula. So right over here on this side over here, that is your fibula. And when they merge together at the bottom, it is actually going to create your ankle bone. So if you look right over here, this is your ankle bone. So next we have your tarsals. This is going to be your ankle bones. Tarsals, right over there. And they are short bones. So there's just going to be like a ton of tiny little short bones. And then you have your metatarsals, which are all of these ones that are over here in the middle. So it's this middle region is your metatarsals, like that. And then your toes, so the remainder of the bones on your feet over here, those are all going to be your phalanges. Phalanges is also the same for both your toes and your fingers. It's going to be the same terminology. Oh, I did not spell that right. There we go. Missing an N. Phalanges. All right. Now, moving on, we are going to do your upper extremities. So, upper extremities, I'm going to insert an image over here, upload from my device. All right, so this is going to be your upper limbs. First, we're going to be talking about your pectoral girdle, or kind of like the bones that are making up your chest. So, this bone right over here, this is your clavicle. And me and my friends would always remember clavicular, or like that famous YouTube streamer. Um, and whenever we were studying, we would always make jokes about it and it would get really, really funny. So, it is a great way to help remember that bone is clavicular, clavicle. And now you have the wings of your back, is what I like to think of them. It is this large flat bone over here. It's going to be on your posterior side, and it is your scapula. So, in like normal jargon, it is known as your shoulder blades. In medical terminology or anatomy terminology, it is your scapula. So, over here, scapula. And then this large bone over here where your biceps and triceps are going to lie, that is going to be your humerus. So right over there. And now we have two bones of the forearms. Rather simple to help remember them is the bone leading to your thumb is going to be your radius. So over here, this is your radius. And then the bone that is leading to your pinky is going to be your ulna. So you can see your pinky side and the bone leading to it right over there. So that is your ulna. Now, similar to the ankles and the bones of the foot, you have your carpals. So, unlike tarsals for the ankle, the wrist has carpals. So, just change that one little letter, and it's very simple to remember. and I like how it goes hand in hand. Next, you have your metacarpals, which are the little bones that are going straight off of it. These are going to be long bones over here. So just these middle bones, these are going to be your metacarpals. Metacarpals, right over there. And then finally, the remainder of the bones, these are all of your phalanges. So everything excluding the metatarsals is your phalanges. And again, same spelling for toes and fingers. So that was everything for the axial and the appendicular skeleton and all of the bones. Please go check out those next videos with kind of like a little bit more of the organs and organ systems. And I look forward to reading all of your comments, suggestions, or questions that you guys have. If you have any video recommendations, please let me know and I will get back to you as soon as possible. And good luck studying. You guys got this. Please like and subscribe. And I wish you all the best in your upcoming studies. Goodbye and have a great day.